Hi everyone, it's Alan with Earthglow. Welcome back to another new video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I make body butters in larger batches. So I'm just getting all of my oils mixed up, and I'll have my formula in the description box for you guys. It is a formula that I formulated myself. It's a blend of a bunch of just luscious oils and butters. And I like to start off by just putting some 99% rubbing alcohol on all of my tools where the product will be, even though they're already clean to my eyes, just in case there was any little bit of dust that settled on them. And I'm just measuring out my jojoba oil here, as well as some rosehip oil. And these are the two liquid oils, liquid at room temperature, I should say, that I use in this formula. And the mango butter and shea butter are gonna be solid at room temperature. So those I melt over the not the double boiler, over the Bunsen burner that you can see in the back there. And then I'm also just preparing my arrowroot powder. And what this does is when you have a body butter that is all oils, it can tend to get kind of greasy. It's really good for your skin, but it can tend to get kind of greasy. So the arrowroot is a natural way of combating that. And it also has a host of other good skin properties. And then this is colloidal oatmeal. It's pretty much ground up oats. And I'm just adding that as well to my arrowroot here. And then now I'm pouring in my liquid oils into my melted hard oils. And so all 5 different oils are now combined, and I'm just giving those a little bit of a stir. The next step is to take these out into my freezer, and you're gonna be freezing this and checking on it every 30 minutes and giving it a stir. And depending on your batch size, it's gonna take a different amount of time for it to become solid. But meanwhile, I'm gonna be mixing up my fragrances. So this is the blend that I use for our patchouli spell, and it contains a mix of essential oils. So you saw me doing the lavender and the cedarwood, as well as a little bit of fragrance oils. And this mahogany embers and beeswax is so good, you guys. Just added some patchouli essential oil there. And I will have these exact blends available to my patrons of the fragrances I formulated for our body butters. And this next one is gonna be a mix of Dark Crystal by Brambleberry, as well as some different essential oils. And I also do use Makesy's Harvested Sumac and Campfire. And this is for our Sensuous Sumac blend. It's so seductive. It smells like an absolutely exotic vanilla. It's just got that dark, enchanting vibe to it. And the patchouli spell is very woodsy, earthy. It smells like, I don't know, something I imagine like the characters in Twilight wearing, like the vampires. But yeah, the Harvested Sumac and Campfire is such a good fragrance. A lot of Makesy's oils I do love to use in my body butters. They're super gentle on the skin, but always make sure to check that IFRA certificate and make sure that it is compliant. And for my body butter formulas, I do use about 2.5% fragrance. And you can see me here in the garage in my giant freezer, just checking on these every 30 minutes and then just using a regular old spoon to kind of mix them together. Each time you stir, you want to try to get it as liquidy as possible. And then I'm preparing the jars. I use rubbing alcohol in each one, again, just to get rid of any dust. And then I'm gonna be piping these body butters. And I do like to use 99% rubbing alcohol just because it is stronger, but I always make sure to wear gloves when I'm using it. and also because it evaporates more, so there's less water. Water, you're gonna learn very quickly, it creates bacteria. So this is an oil-based recipe, so you don't technically have to use a preservative with it. However, I have been opting to use just a little bit of preservative just in case my customers are using this near their bath. But I'm just mixing these up. And so what you're gonna see me doing here is initially just kind of getting the mixture going. So you wanna stop and take it out of the freezer just before it becomes like rock solid. You wanna be able to mix it. And I just use this whisk. The mixers that I use, I will also put in the description box for you guys. They are very inexpensive and they're much larger mixers, so you are able to scale much easier with them than say buying an $800 or $900 KitchenAid of an equivalent size. So I'm just gradually going to be adding in the arrowroot and colloidal oatmeal. And as I am doing that, I generally like to turn my speed down just a little bit so that it doesn't get all over. But if you have never made body butters before or used these mixers very much, I would recommend just turning it off all the way, just so that way you don't accidentally get your hand caught in there. And then I'm also going to be gradually adding in the fragrance. Now this one is Chamomile Kiss. This was my first scent that I ever came out with, and it is a mix of Lavender 4042, which is a mix of different lavender essential oils that originates, actually, it comes from France. And I like the SVA Organics brand. That is where I tend to source almost all of our essential oils. I will put their website in the description box, but I really like their oils. They're all GCMS tested for purity, and they're just good quality, and they're relatively affordable. But overall, that's my preferred choice for essential oils. And then the other thing in Chamomile Kiss is Roman chamomile essential oil. And it is just a mix of those two. And again, I'll have the exact blend available to my patrons. That was the first scent that I ever came out with, and this was about 5 years ago when I created this formula. And so I just sold Chamomile Kiss for like the first 2 years, and it was consistently very, very popular. And then now I would say the Patchouli Spell and Sensuous Sumac are equally, if not more popular, but that was before I got comfortable really formulating and blending my own fragrances. So I will gradually increase the speeds and kind of decrease them, but this whole process of adding in the fragrances and arrowroot powder and colloidal oatmeal takes about, I would say, 35 minutes. Basically, once I get them all the way in, and I do that gradually, I will then mix on high for another 20 minutes. And then right next to it, I've got another scent going. So I'm doing the Chamomile Kiss in the bronze mixer. And then to the right of it, I am doing, I believe it is the Patchouli Spell. So it's definitely a slower process to make these than, say, emulsified body butters, where you are able to use emulsifying wax, and it's a water-based formula, which I will have another video on that coming out soon. I actually got sent some gem extracts from Wholesale Supplies Plus, so we're going to be playing with those soon in an emulsified body butter formula. But this is kind of a more traditional oil-based formula, and a lot of people have gotten away from that just because they're so time-consuming to make. They're so expensive because you're using 100% rich oils and butters and no water. And also, they do not ship very well in the summertime. They will be, I don't want to say unstable, but essentially they'll melt a little bit, and you will have to leave them at room temperature to get them to kind of firm up again. Or I tell some people that they can just pop them in the refrigerator. So this is actually a formula that I do not sell anymore in the summertime for that reason. But even if you were shipping this, say in the fall or in the winter time, well, not really winter, but I guess depending on where you're shipping it, it could still arrive melted to someone if they're in a warmer climate and say it's sitting right outside their house and or in a postage facility where it's not climate controlled and the sun is scorching down on that package, it could still melt a little bit. So I have not switched all the way to emulsified water-based body butters, but I do kind of make both primarily for that reason, that they're just more stable. You can actually see me in my pajama pants making these in the reflection if you guys look. Oh my gosh. I will oftentimes just take a regular spoon, not one that I use for cooking, but I'll just have a dedicated one for this that I use to kind of scrape off the very hardened bits on the side. And you'll have to do this quite a lot as you're making these. The bits will kind of collect to the sides, and it's just a process with these. If any of you have made them, you will know it's nothing like emulsified butters. But I have customers that are in love with this formula, and I've had multiple customers say it's the only formula that they can use on their skin just because of the ingredients, right? Like, it's very anti-inflammatory. I mean, I should start that with saying, like, we can't make medical claims about our, like, these aren't pharmaceuticals. We're not legally allowed to make medical claims. But what I will say is that the ingredients in here, the mango butter, shea butter, colloidal oatmeal, even the arrowroot powder, the rosehip oil, the jojoba oil, they're all very good for reducing inflammation, promoting anti-aging, elasticity in skin, and just they're beautiful ingredients. And so this formula I originally developed because, so I have very temperamental skin, and when I was 19, I was diagnosed with a mast cell activation condition. Some of you might have read it on the website, but basically I was getting hives all the time on my skin. I was having allergenic responses that weren't triggered by an exact allergen, but essentially what I ended up doing for my skin was combining the formulas in a lot of different over-the-counter products that I tried for my skin. Some of them might have had the active ingredient being colloidal oatmeal. Some of them might have had high amounts of mango butter or whatever it was, rosehip oil. I ended up combining the properties of my favorite products and then increasing the strength like by tenfold of everything to get to where I'm at with this formula. And it's really the only body butter that I can say really calms my skin down. And it's funny because I've gone back to some of the like over-the-counter products that I used to use for my skin, and they don't even hold a candle to this body butter formula. So I won't stop making it for that reason. And also, like I said, because I have customers that continually come back for this one, and even spouses of customers that will say, like, you know, my husband's a mechanic and this is the only thing he can use that actually works on his hands, or people in healthcare who use a bunch of hand sanitizer that'll say this is the only thing that really moisturizes and soothes my irritated, inflamed skin. So anyways, just a little bit of info on that formula and kind of how I came up with it. But basically, as you can see here, I'm mixing in real time, and this is just a process. But I will get 2 of these going at once. These mixers that I do get on Amazon, and they're very inexpensive, and I still haven't had to repurchase. These are the original 2. I actually started out with the silver one on the right about 5 years ago, and then I purchased the copper one maybe 1.5 to 2 years ago, and I only use this kind of whisk on them That's the only mixing tool that I use. But they've been going strong. And I really work these things. Like I said, when you first start mixing, your consistency is going to be almost rock solid, but not quite. Like, you want it enough so that you can press the mixer down into it, but right at the point where it's difficult to, if that makes sense. It's kind of a feel thing, and there's not really a wrong way to it. Like, your product is going to be good no matter what. It's just going to differ. If you want the fluffiest consistency, well, I say fluffiest, but the consistency of this product is more like, I would say, old frosting. But there's a difference. Like, there's like fluffy old frosting and more oily old frosting. And the way that you get it fluffier is by mixing longer at a higher rate, and also by letting it get just about to solid but not quite. And then adding your arrowroot in gradually and your fragrance in gradually. You definitely don't want to just dump them in. Like I said, I'm doing this, just adding them in alone for probably 10 to 15 minutes on kind of a low to medium speed. And then what you'll see is I whip them on high for 20 minutes. Now, I'm not going to have all that on camera for you guys, but basically I just turn the mixer to high and let it go for 15 to 20 minutes. And maybe one time during that, I will stop it and, take the excess off the sides. But by that point, it is pretty well combined, and I'm just letting it run for 20 minutes on high, like just about the highest setting. So at this point, it's looking, how would you describe that? Kind of like toothpaste-like consistency almost. Pretty well combined. There's still some clumps on the side. But at this point, I've got all my arrowroot, colloidal oatmeal, and fragrance combined with the body butter. And I'm just preparing it to be whipped on high, basically. And this is also a really messy process. I probably go through like 3 different pairs of gloves doing this. That's just how it is. Each of these mixers are going to make, I usually get, I want to say it's like 21 to, I don't know. It kind of varies depending on how fluffy I'm able to get it, but I would say it's like between 24 and 30 individual body butters. So, I'd say around 50 for 2 mixers. And again, I'll have the formula in the description box, and the fragrance percentage that I'm using is about 2.5%. So how I'm getting that is taking my oils, the total of my oils, and multiplying that by 0.025, and that would be the amount of fragrance that you would use. And it works in grams or in ounces. Use any consistent unit, basically. And a lot of people use less fragrance. I find with this formula, since I am using all raw, unrefined butters, and the shea butter kind of has almost a chocolatey like smell to it, and then the arrowroot can have a little bit of a starchy scent. I find that using a little bit of a higher fragrance percent really helps to kind of cut some of that down a little bit. But I also find that when you're using raw, unrefined shea butter, you have to use a fragrance that plays well with your shea butter, because they don't all. And I've tried to use, I tried Flaming Candle's Cocoa Butter Cashmere in this before, and I had a lot of customers who liked it. But for me personally, even that fragrance, even though it had cocoa butter in the name, it just didn't work with the natural unrefined shea butter smell, if that makes sense. And you could also add a dye to this. If you have a skin-safe dye, you could probably even add a little bit of mica, but you'd want to just go very light on that because it could stain clothes and whatnot if it's too much. But I tend to just leave this all natural. I don't add colorant. I've never had a customer ask me to color it, and personally, I figure the less ingredients like that, the better. So yeah, you will just, if you're trying to batch this like I am and get a larger quantity made, get both of your mixers going about the same time. And then what you'll see me doing next, after I whip these on high, like I said, I'm gonna do that off camera because that's like another 20 minutes where I'm pretty much just leaving the mixer running. But then I'm gonna show you how I pipe these. Now, you certainly don't have to pipe them. A lot of people do just use like a spoon and try to spoon it into the container. One of the reasons I like to pipe these is it makes the whole process a lot easier, in my opinion, even though it is an extra step. It's much easier to get this thicker product into your container, and to minimize the air bubbles, you will still have to tap the air bubbles out a little bit, but you're able to direct the flow much easier, in my opinion, than with a spoon. And then I also just like the finished result aesthetically. I think that it just comes out prettier, and when your customer opens it, sometimes they'll get to see the pattern of whatever piping tip you used. And I just use like some of the basic ones that I'll have the piping kit that I use linked in the description box, but I really just use some of the basic kind of star tips. They're almost like the open circle tip, but some of them just have like a little bit of dimension to them to just add like a ripple effect. But I would say this whole process, from the time that you start it to the time that you have it finished, to make like 50 body butters like I'm doing here, is probably gonna be a 6 to 7 hour process. And I know that sounds insane, but that's just the reality. You might be able to get it done in 5 or 6 hours, but it's very time consuming. However, like I said, the product that you're gonna get out of this, in my opinion, is just unparalleled, and you will have customers continually coming back for this formula. I'm also really proud of the fragrances that I came up with. Now, I usually only make these 3 scents. I have been known to do a lavender rose formula that utilizes a lot of rose geranium essential oil. And I have also done a sacred frankincense formula that has a lot of frankincense essential oil. My main formulas with these are very heavy on the essential oils, but then I use a little bit of fragrance oil to just give them some pizzazz and to give an inspired take on the essential oil. I see fragrance as artistry, and so for me, that synthesis brings out the best in both. So most of the fragrance oils that I use, even in my candle line, do contain a high amount of essential oils within them. This is about the speed that you would see me whipping this. And like I said, it's about the highest setting, maybe not quite the highest, but very close to the highest setting on the mixer. This is also a little bit of a messy process. These mixers do come with like a guard that you could use. Now for me, I don't personally, but you know, it might help to minimize some of the mess. And then I am just piping these right onto my scale. Now, these are 4 ounce containers that I get from Wholesale Supplies Plus, and I do get the lids from them as well. And you definitely don't have to use amber containers, but that is what I have chosen to use. And it is nice with the essential oils since there's a heavy amount of the fragrance coming from that, just to keep them from kind of expiring sooner. It preserves their properties more. But I will oftentimes with these get a varying amount. Most of them are going to be like 3.0 to 3.1, sometimes 2.9 if it's really fluffy, going up to 3.5 or 3.6. I like to monitor it with the scale. So that way I know, that I'm getting in the range that I want for this product. And this is the final result, you guys. I am absolutely obsessed with the look of the piping, and you can see when you use different piping tips, I've used 2 slightly different ones, you will get a little bit of a different result. But oh my goodness, my grandmother actually uses this body butter formula as well. She's a massage therapist and she uses it. She absolutely is obsessed with it for that. And then also people will use this on their face because the oils are, none of them clog pores. That's another thing that I should have probably mentioned earlier that's really important, was really important to me in the formulation process. Because some oils that are really good for your skin, like coconut oil, are known to actually clog pores. And so I wanted all the oils to have maximum skin properties, but also be rated as like a 0 on a dermatologist scale of, not clogging your pores. And the technical term for that is being non-comedogenic. And you've probably seen that word before or heard it used on skincare products. And there's a whole different rating system on that dermatologists use. It's not either comedogenic or non-comedogenic. There's a whole rating scale. I believe it's from 1 to 10 that is used by dermatologists to rate that. But anyways, there should hopefully be some body butters still available on the website if you did want to check these out for yourself. Yeah, it's just a really special formula, and I highly encourage you to give it a try. I will try to link my favorite ingredients for this formula in the description box for you guys as well, so that you are able to check out the exact ingredients that I am using for this. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And I'm sending all of you peace, love, and light. And I'm wishing all of you happy making. I would like to take the time to thank my patrons for their incredible support. A massive shout out goes to Wendy, Nicole Rott, Nancy with All About Me Beauty Bar, Merle, Brad with Neon City Scents, Michelle, Paula, Zahara with Crystalline Candle Co., Julie with B-Lux Candle Co., Jennifer with Bea Essentials, Selena with Banbury Street Creations, Andrea, Sue, Nick, Bruce, Emma, Flavia, Jennifer with Bittersweet Candle Co., Danielle, Anitra with Ninth and Maxwell, Matthew, Jindy, Lisa, Elizabeth, Tammy, Carol, Cheryl with Soaps by Cheryl, Maya, Losa, Betty, Luzdari, Taichi, John with Past Sense Candles, Angela, Amber, Bluegrass Bath and Candle Co., Marketer, Allie, Carla, Todd with Cold Creek Candle Co., Krista, SS, Karen with River Birch Soaps, Kina with Kijoli, Angela, Amanda, Denise with Grumblegeist Candle Co., She's More, Cindy, Kim, Teresa, Frida, Shiromi, J Creative P, Colette, Nicole, Stella, Leanne, Martha, Angela, Jamie, Chadwick, Z, Mabel, Arev, Bobby, Jamie, Brian, Amy, Julia, Stephanie, Honey, Janet, Terry, Maria, Carla, Lo, Genevieve, Gracie, Yolanda, Tonya, Susan, Irene, Rolanda with Mason Marzette, Megan, Melissa, Ursulette with Ursulette's Beauty Secrets, Danny with Halos, Kelly, TCM with Ava Bryceco, Lois, Terry with Maddie Rose Market, Tia, Victoria with The Sacred Prayer, Valerie, Stacy with Firewick with Me, Jenna with Sebastopol Botanicals, Belinda, Rhonda, Smadar, Duchess Luxury Creations, Juliet, Carla, Crystal with Indigo Scents Candle Co., Anika, Kim with Kimberly's Candle Co., Kim, Angelic, Tia, Chris, Jason, Sharon, Miss S, Shakira, Tiffany, Kim, BN, Lizette, Chandra, Pat, Chickadee Company, Tara, Heather, Indigo, Shajana with Forever Mellow Co., Gina, Emily, Sandra with Loft 54, Heidi, Brianna, Sunday, Michelle, Lisa, Angela with Woodland Apothecary, Kelly Vons, Angela, Natalie with Walters Wicks, Anne, Sherry, Cynthia, and Denise. Your support is deeply appreciated.